All right, I would like to call this meeting to order. I move that we open the Town of Marshfield Conservation Commission meeting of June 15th, 2021. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, who was it, Joe?
Joe.
Excellent.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes, all right. So there's 6 of you today. Okay. So
Everyone is in attendance except for Commissioner Carberry.
5. Okay, got it. Very good.
The draft minutes have been submitted. Does anyone have any additional comments or corrections to the minutes?
Madam Chair, I had met with Joe Ring, and he had provided comments, and Susan Karen had provided comments. I captured both of those sets. They are now part of your edited minutes.
So I move that we approve the minutes as edited. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good.
Okay.
Unanimous. Okay. Very good.
I just have a brief statement. The state of emergency ended today, so all public meetings will be held in person. We do not have any further guidance regarding going forward with a hybrid model, but clearly that's what we will be doing. The governor has left that open, I believe, until September 1st. So as soon as we get guidance on that, we will make it public. I just want to say that over the past few months, both commissioners and staff have found themselves in some uncomfortable situations. And I want to make clear to everyone sitting at this table as a commissioner is a volunteer. We work very hard and we devote a lot of energy to what we do. And I understand that for people there's a lot at stake and there are some consequential decisions being made. We are not here to be adversarial. We want to work with you to get things done. But our jurisdiction is the wetland resource area. So we are doing our best to maintain those resources and to keep Marshfield the really special place that it is. So I ask for everyone's respect and patience, and we will treat you the same.
I speak for the staff, and I'm grateful for you to step up and say that, Chairman Hannafin. That is really a first, and I appreciate that.
Okay, business items.
Could I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Maybe we take item 2 because it's about a 30-second item.
Okay.
I could-
Business item 2 is the Conservation Office meeting dates and deadlines through the end of the year.
You all have copies?
Yep.
Any conflicts with that? That's your first and third Tuesday, which typically is what happens for this Conservation Commission. Okay.
Okay. So I move that we approve this public meeting schedule for July to December of 2021 as prepared. May I have a second? Susan?
Got it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Beautiful. All right. All right, check out our schedule, Eric.
Business meeting 1. 77 and 98 Cherry Street. Mr. Administrator, would you like to synopsize this situation?
Sure. We have had multiple complaints about some activities that were going on at Cherry Street on 77 Cherry and also 98 Cherry. So my first visit down there was with Conservation Agent Flint. He and I went down, sized up the project, got some, took some photo identification, captured the real-time conditions on 5/11. The next day I returned 5/12 with the hearing officer because we heard some more comments about what was going on down on Cherry Street, this time only at 77. We went down, we actually met Mr. Gibbs, and we discussed with him briefly what was going on, and suggested there was a cease and desist, that we shouldn't be doing any more cutting in the buffer zones. So things then proceeded and they were fine, and then last week we got another call that there was more activity going on 77 Cherry Street, and so we went down this time with Commissioner Leahy and we met with Mr. Gibbs. We talked to him about it, and at first You know, he had his position on it, it's his property, and I understand that. We talked about conservation values, he understood that. We have a cease and desist on it at this point in time. Commissioner Leahy and I explained that we're likely going to be going into the enforcement order approach to this, and that enforcement order ranges from your standard conditions all the way to more involved conditions. And it's up to the commission to make a determination. What we have here is we've got 3 different events. One happened, I guess, originally on Mother's Day. Another one happened, it was like in the middle of the week. And then the other one happened, I think, on a Sunday. And so I think we have the messaging with Mr. Gibbs and Mrs. Gibbs, because I also spoke to Mrs. Gibbs. But this is highly complicated project area. There are 2 orders of conditions on this project, okay? One is 77 Cherry Street, and that is SE 42 77 was 2736 was the 98, and 2914 was for 77 Cherry, more recent, for a raise and rebuild. Both properties had they had mitigation in the form of conservation markers. 98 also had removal of a driveway. It had restoring the Concom land. The house actually sits on the Concom. All these things were being taken into consideration, and we also had conservation markers over there. So after talking about this a little bit with the chair and also with Commissioner Leahy, we decided to let the commission make its decision tonight about what they want to do. You can either look at this and focus on the cutting that has happened, or you can look at the more comprehensive approach to it, which would be, we need additional protection out there and this, because, you know, these properties, one of the properties is up for sale right now. So that being said, those are the facts. Mr. Gibbs expressed that he's willing to cooperate, and that he'd be willing to listen to what the commission has to say. Now, I think it's only fair to say that the commission has to look at the standard conditions all the way through the more involved, and then there's the addition of fines, because we have 3-time events here. But he's encouraging me that he's willing to work with the commission. So I think that's in a nutshell. I'll be happy to answer questions. I'd just like to say that, you know, this much energy being put on one area of the same messaging just shouldn't happen. So that's all I'm going to say.
Okay. Do any commissioners wish to comment on this?
Just to clarify, Bill, both properties the same ownership?
That's my understanding. Now, if you're asking me to go down there and find out if we have a trust, or if Mr. Gibbs is on one, or Mrs. Gibbs is on another, I can't answer that.
Okay, but generally, same owners.
I'm going to turn to Mr. Gibbs. You own the both?
Same ownership, yes.
Okay.
Joint ownership.
Yeah, all right.
Commissioner Ring, do you have something to...
The orders of conditions were arranged with the same parties?
No, we had two orders of conditions were separated by about maybe 3 years or so. What happened was they bought 98 from Mr. Bottoms. Mr. Bottoms had orders of conditions because he was elevating his house. He was moving it onto his property. There was extensive mitigation involved. I think it's important that we get this out so that we can flesh all this out. And then beyond that, the new cutting has gone well downgrading to that, taking out high tide bush and phragmites, which we all know is problematic, but in salt marsh, it's actually part of the salt marsh, so it has to be dealt with. On 77, brand new order of conditions. You've got conservation land on that property as well that's adjacent to, and you have got a variety of different wetlands over there, including an isolated vegetative wetland. So they need to quickly be protected. They need to be quickly dealt with, and there's also a dumping down the street, which I was told that somebody in the neighborhood advised them that they could do that. Well, they took that on their own due diligence to do it, and now we are aware that their material ended up in that dump site. So we have 2 cutting areas and we have 1 dumping area.
So the orders of conditions, did they have, I just want to be clear, they had conservation markers?
Yeah, on the one with Bottoms, now Gibbs, 98 Cherry, had conservation markers. They also had coastal wetland seed mix. They were going to remove a driveway, and then the house is going to get moved. And then we have additional cutting going on along the road. So, maybe additional conservation markers along the road would be appropriate there. On 77, I think we're all well aware, we was here for that hearing. There was extensive conservation markers. I had suggested during, as an option, that they add green and white. When I was talking to the consultant, he said, well, I have to check with the owners. I didn't realize we may be getting a cutting scenario, but actually, in hindsight, I wish we'd done that during the hearing to save everybody a lot of hassle. If we could have these done the day after the hearing, we wouldn't have any cutting like this going on, because it would be pretty crystal clear. So, does that answer your question, or did I ramble?
I think so.
So it seems like markers, clear markers, maybe more markers, ones that are very easily visible would be in order to
Yeah.
prevent the future from going on. So that leaves us with what to do with what has happened.
Right, and there's two things that what has happened. You have alteration and removal, and then you have fill. So we've got fill down the road, you know, whether the neighbor told him it was okay or not, it's really on his own. You know, we know it's his plants ended up in there, because it's pretty clear.
So the fill is that brush that's dumped alongside the road?
Yeah,
Okay, so we're not talking fill in the way of
Greenways,
loam
so, yeah.
or anything like that?
yeah, on the Concom land, they've been doing it for years, and, you know, it's an attitude.
It's sort of brush
Yeah.
in a valley or
Yeah.
a little dugout area.
Yeah, so to move this forward, what do we want to vote on?
Well, I was just trying to finish up Commissioner
Enforcement
Leahy's
order?
points, yeah. Do I do that, Commissioner Leahy, or
Yeah,
should I
yeah,
stop
yeah.
cold, Mr. Commissioner?
No, I just think for future, get clear markers
Mhm.
and that no one could dispute. They're there, no touch, and then figure out what we want to do to
He's gonna
fix
lose his
what's been done.
driveway on the Concom side, he doesn't understand that yet, because that's not been explained to him in detail. So that's kind of important, whether or not you want it removed now, you know, is kind of important. That was part of the original orders, he's not actually following them, because he doesn't need to. He didn't have the same issue that Bottoms had, but they have a lien on the house due to the fact that they have 98. So these are all complications. The last thing I didn't get to finish was that the plants got cut. So did they replace or not? There's a fair amount of high tide bush that was mature and got wiped out. And then there was some cedars that were decent, you know, and some that were leaning. And if I go show you the photos before and after, we could probably find 5 decent trees that got taken out, plus high tide bush. But you don't recognize it.
Would you like to
May I
speak?
speak?
Yes.
So there are a few things that are not actual.
Can I, what's your name?
Sarah Gibbs.
Sarah, S-A-R-A?
Mhm.
Yeah, Gibbs. Yeah, and you're 77 or 98, Cherry.
We're both.
Where do you live? 98?
This is Mrs. Gibbs.
This is,
Yeah, I just wanted to share for the record.
Okay.
Yeah.
I live at 98.
All right.
77 is uninhabitable. The
Yeah.
house has been vacant for 10 years.
That's good. I already know that. I just wanted to make
Well,
sure
I
we
think
get it for the
that, I
record.
don't know if everyone else knows that, but the property was in very bad condition when we purchased it. When we purchased 98, and maybe that's what I want to address first, there is no lien on 98 that I'm aware of. It had a clear title when we purchased it. Those orders of the conditions were given to Mr. Bottoms because he was raising and moving his home. When we bought it, we had no intention of doing that. The property has been maintained in the condition that it's been maintained at 98 for close to 40 or 50 years, or maybe even longer than that. But my attorney interviewed Mr. Bottoms when he sold his property to us, and she was informed by him that you know his family had lived there for many years and that they had installed the driveway and also the clothesline, and that they had been mowing that area for many years. You know, so at any rate, we continued to do the same. We had no intention of raising the home, and you know we were there to live happily ever after until this event happened at 77. 77, we were not aware that we could have gotten a permit. Had we been aware of that, we certainly would have come and asked for a permit to bring the property. The Phragmites are really very aggressive, as you well know, and the property hasn't been mowed or maintained in many years. And we are ready to prepare, since you gave that permission to build a new home on that property, we're now in the position to put it on the market. And in doing so, we started clearing on Mother's Day. We were told not to, and we stopped. We obeyed the situation. We were told that we would be given a meeting, but the meeting never came. And now we're getting ready to put the house on the market. Had we been told then that we could have gotten a permit, we would have definitely, you know, done so. You know, we really want to improve the property, improve the land, and we want to get the property sold. We have no problems with the order of conditions that were given to us. We think that it's appropriate. But however, in all those years, with the tides and with people abandoning and putting things in that lot, neighbors have put things over the years that needs to be removed. And there's a lot of fill that doesn't belong there. And so we were told to clear that fill out, which we can't now because with 90-degree weather, the Phragmites came back in twice as density. And so therefore we were just really trying to clear the property. There's no malice taken here. We respect the wetlands, we respect your positions, and all we want to do is improve our property so that we can sell it.
However, there was cutting as recently as last week.
Right, because I said that. We didn't hear from anyone.
Well,
And so we said, okay, well, it must not be an issue.
the day that Administrator Grafton and I were there, he issued a cease and desist.
Yes.
That means it all stops. So it did not all stop.
It did not.
It
I
can-
admit to
you-
doing that.
You've cut more.
Chairwoman, I admit to doing that. I have no excuse for it, except for the fact that we were getting ready to put our house on the market, and 3 weeks had gone by, and we needed to do something. Had I known that we could have gotten a permit, had we been told that when you came and met with us, and when Mr. Grafton spoke to me on the phone, we would have immediately remedied it and come and gotten the permit. That was never said to us. We were just told to sit, to be quiet and you're being punished and, that's, you have to
Well-
wait to hear from us, and we never heard from you. So I apologize, I made a mistake.
Well, a cease and desist is a cease and desist. We don't need to have meetings after that. This activity has continued. So at a minimum now, we need the green waste removed from the dump area down the road, and that area gets markers. We need
Okay, but
additional...
however, in that pile, we took very few trees down, only those that were over and dying. And so the piles are 8 or 10 feet tall. We added a few branches of, they're the cedar trees, and I will remove the cedar trees certainly.
Well, there's an awful lot of Phragmites in there too, that has been cut.
No, I did not put any
It's hard to
Phragmites.
forensically figure out what
We
was
did
done
not
and was not done.
collect
Two
any
things could
Phragmites.
happen,
We left it
Chairman,
there.
Hannafin. What you could do is have them take out what they're saying that they believe is right, and then let's have them take another 50% of that and get it out of there.
Oh my
And
God,
then
there's so
maybe-
much there. They've been
maybe
piling
put
things
up
in there
a
for
fence
years.
to block it from being used again with the green and white conservation markers and the red and white, and that'll block access and that'll get the message across. This is going on all over the place, so we don't stop it. That's a possibility. Otherwise, having to clean the whole thing out, maybe those are two options. Just.
And I understand that historically, the property that you're living on, 98, has been mowed, but erroneously, you're in conservation land, and that needs to stop. So I think we need additional markers and plantings where along the road, high tide bush has been mowed,
Yeah.
Phragmites has been mowed, that needs to be remedied.
There are no Phragmites growing in that area.
Well, whatever has been removed there needs mitigation, restoration.
I think the high tide bush is the high value one. We've been actually having a lot of people do that as mitigation on projects where they want to get a permit, but they're too close to the buffer zone. So perhaps we target that. The Phragmites will grow anywhere, but you can't cut it because it's part of the salt marsh. And so maybe we get them to pull together a restoration plan as part of this enforcement rapidly, and let's see if we can get it all done in 30 days and maybe get them planting. If you release them to work with me and maybe some dedicated commissioners like a task force with the chair, or maybe Art, or maybe the chair and Joe, something like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
make it
restoration plan
expedited.
would be a good idea, I think, and just get this moved along.
Yeah, because I think the two of you have the most familiarity. Alternatively, I think it's just too early for Eric to deal with. Otherwise we go different avenues, yeah.
Well, I would propose that we have a 30-day window to adapt a restoration plan, get additional markers as per the orders of conditions.
Well, are any of the markers in place? I don't believe they are. Any of the markers we originally required.
No, none of them.
No, I didn't, I was gonna ask that same thing, Bert, because when I was there, I really didn't see
So
any.
other than along the road, do we need additional markers or do we
Yes.
just
No, I
walk
think you
along the
do.
road?
I think we do,
But-
yeah.
But then, just the ones that were required. As far as 98, I recall that hearing. The big problem there is right beside the house is conservation land.
Yeah.
So to get the markers in place and to pull back from conservation land.
Mr.
is an
O'Donnell,
issue.
the entire area is all conservation area. I mean, just like where the 90 parking lots spaces are going, I mean, that was all conservation area, so where the septic, sewer system is. I mean, the whole area was all conservation per se, it was all marshland.
I'm
And-
not gonna debate with you.
Yeah.
It's
So
owned
we've
by-
already been
what
down
we're
that
talking
road.
about
The
is
commissioner's
owned
got it
by the
dead on right. He's
Conservation
dead on right
Commission.
about it.
Yeah, I think the
So-
sorry.
Well, you know what, maybe I don't understand that then. Maybe it's, granted, we said we were gonna be, courteous to one another, so I'm trying to be very courteous. I like the courteous back, to be courteous back
So,
to me.
yeah, I'd like to get a courteous team and we'll do that.
Yeah, I think that would be very helpful. I think education on this whole thing is very,
Exactly.
very helpful. I think the difference with conservation land and resource areas, I think it would be good to explain that to you. I think we should do that.
And I think an open mind and understanding about the rules and regulations is in order. Sometimes I get accused of going into that too much, but it's education. And with education and also knowledge of your property and current permitting, these kind of things don't happen. We always tell everybody, come and see us and we'll help you out with whatever. With the
I
due
didn't
diligence.
think I was doing anything wrong, so again, I apologize. I hope
Well-
that you do not punish me severely. It sounds like.
Commissioner-
We have no
But
interest in punishing anyone.
It feels
We
like it's a
want,
punishment, so I'm just
to-
letting you know how I feel.
we want to
I feel like
rectify
I'm,
the situation.
that's how I feel.
And, we're letting you speak tonight. Technically, only the commissioners speak during business sessions. So we have heard your side of it. And.
And I'll repeat again that we want to do whatever you want us to do.
Okay,
Within-
we all
within a
want to
reasonable-
get a solution here.
I think also clarity, so the cease and desist is on, there's no more cutting, okay? None. That's for the record.
Right, no more cutting,
Yeah.
But we
period.
can get a permit in the future to do this?
Yeah, you can get a permit in the future once the restoration is resolved, yes.
Right. But tonight, we are here to propose an enforcement order. And I would say a 30-day window to work on restoration. I would like to see the conservation markers in as soon as possible.
What is a conservation marker?
We use 4x4 rot-resistant posts, and we have labels that go on them that say conservation land, no disturbance, or what's,
So you got a red line, no disturbance, just like
Your
the
metal
chair said.
discs.
And are we
Yeah.
doing that in the entire road of Cherry Street or just 77 and 98?
I'm gonna be working with the task force and you and Mr. Gibbs and Mrs. Gibbs.
I have them on my own land. You're welcome to come see them. They're medallions that go on these 4x4 posts. Mine are 2 feet down and 2 feet up.
And where do we get those?
We give it to you for
we
free.
will give you those.
So Craig, normally I would ask for consideration of fines in a case like this where it was clear that there was a conversation. I don't think that I'm really interested in that tonight because I want to promote, as we've been working real hard to promote cooperative work efforts. How about consideration of looking at the fines if it's not finished within some set time period, as an encouragement?
I totally agree with that, and I was actually going to propose that. We do
Thank
have the ability to levy fines over enforcement issues. But
Right.
as Commissioner Ring said, that's really not where we want to go immediately.
I would,
So
Why
I
would we
would,
not want to, why would we not do what you want us to do?
because you haven't so far.
But you didn't tell us anything to do.
Well,
You just
we're
told
not,
us.
we're not gonna
You didn't tell
argue
us
that.
you're doing
I think you're right.
With all
Wait a
due
minute.
respect,
Yeah.
for 77, you had a hearing, you have a full set of plans that show everything that we're talking about.
You
Wait a
have
minute, it
orders
didn't
of
say
conditions.
anything
Back
about
the tail
not
for
cutting
that.
it. It didn't say anything about not, actually, it was clearly stated to me that I needed to clear it and get the debris out of what was there. So again, we're.
Okay, we
again,
have
we're-
confusion, but,
We'll fix that, but I think their bottom line, just to cut to that, is you had conservation markers, they're no disturb, nothing down gradient from that ever.
that means
So that means,
don't
don't touch a wetland, and the
that.
wetlands got touched also.
And those markers did not get placed
Yeah.
on a timely basis.
Excuse
More
me, that
cutting,
was just done.
more cutting has ensued,
Yeah,
and so here we are.
Okay.
So we just need to correct this.
so going back to the comment that Joe was making, I think you need a start date, and then I think you should adopt the $300 a day, which is part of chapter 294. And I thought that was a clever idea that you were discussing about enumerating the days, but not necessarily assigning the fees. And if you don't get the corrective action that you're looking for, then you can assign the fees. The last thing would be calendar days versus business days, and I just say, get that out there for the record. We've done this before, and they paid the fees, and they were done, but, this might need a little help, yeah.
Yeah, every day,
What if 30
under
days is
every,
enough?
excuse me, this is Commissioner comment.
Yes.
Every day that an enforcement order is left open is a violation of the Wetlands Protection Act. And as such, can carry a fine. We don't want to go there. We really would rather avoid that. So I would say we have 30 days. If at the end of 30 days, we do not, at a very minimum, have all of the conservation markers in and a restoration plan underway, then we will discuss addressing fines on a business day basis. And
Okay, so you're
we have the ability to go as high as $300 a day. We don't necessarily have to jump to that
Right. So that you're gonna defer the fees until you...
Until for
Okay,
30
understood,
days.
Understood, okay. Deferred for 30, okay. Oh, very good.
Okay,
All right,
so,
I'll
I move that we vote to approve an enforcement order for 77 and 98 Cherry Street. A 30-day window for placing conservation markers and beginning a mitigation restoration plan with fines to be a possible consideration if, at the end of that period, we do not think we have a satisfactory outcome.
Okay, I got that.
Any other additions, comments, subtractions? Then may I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, that's, okay.
Opposed? So Mr. Grafton will, and perhaps Commissioner Loggy and myself
Yeah, that would be good.
will
Yeah,
be in contact, and we will see what we can do to,
And when does the 30 days start?
tomorrow.
So you'll be in touch with me tomorrow then?
Yep.
And you'll be able to drop off those poles? You have them in,
There are no poles, there are conservation markers.
well,
You'll need
I
to buy the
didn't use the right
posts.
word, but.
We
I
can
think
go
you-
through that tomorrow, yeah.
You have them in your stock here?
we
Yes.
have the medallions. You
Well,
will-
the reason I'm saying is
You
that
will be
if I only
responsible
have
for
30
the,
days,
for the 4
I
by
have to
4s.
have 30 days in order to have.
Nope,
so if you don't
I
have the
understand.
material, It furthers my 30 days.
Right,
So, okay.
you need to get some 4 by 4s, but we will give you the medallions that go on them. But that can be explained further.
Okay, so we purchased the 4x4s.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good. B3.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You can sit.
B
B3.
is 72 Bay Ave.
72 Bay Avenue.
Correct.
Request to modify adding concrete to Barrier Beach and coastal dune. So, this house has recently been lifted up on pilings, and the cement under the house was taken out as part of the orders of conditions requiring a pervious surface under the house. The owner wishes to replace the concrete and has concerns that the backing to the seawall is angled into her property and is causing seawater to come under and erode. Had commissioners viewed this situation?
I viewed it, and I also recall the original permit, and, you know, we talked extensively about leaving that as pervious area, so I don't see why we would change from that.
And there's no possibility of mitigation here because there's nowhere to go.
No, it's a very small lot. I think, I think you spoke to somebody about adding either riprap or
Yeah.
cobble, Bill? which-
That's correct. I was actually out there with Commissioner Ring, and we met with the Marshfield Woodworkers, who are the consultant for the Hanlons. And we tried to come up with a creative way of trapping the fines, because basically what's happening is the tidal surge is coming in, and it's yanking the fines out. It's not uniform in that, but it's got plunging areas, it's got driving areas, and it's dissipating. So we tried to figure out a way to use riprap to hold in place the fines underneath it, so that we have pervious opening, which is the intention of what the commission mitigation was for the property. And so I discussed that with Chip Folkert of Marshfield Woodworkers, and then subsequent to that, Mrs. Hanlon contacted me, and we had a nice long conversation about the permit, what she wants, and then what the commission has required. And I suggested, because she didn't like the answer I was giving her, which was it has to be open and the riprap's your best bet, why don't you go see the commissioners about adding the concrete back. But I will say this, that every time we do that, it has an impact on the people across the street, and they're getting washed out. And the last time we went down one of these, a guy on the opposite side was getting washed out by water because somebody poured concrete right next door to him and also across the street. This was 46 Bay Avenue, and we had an enforcement order on that one too. So it's a conundrum, but it's got to be figured out. Not yet, right? You want that? You want that?
Well, not yet.
So I would think that, you know, exploring that with Mrs. Hanlon, who's here, would be a good idea. Now, the neighbor also has, you know, they all have issues because they are so close together. One of the other things she pointed out to me was the neighbors got built up higher in concrete, and it's chipping into her property. So she's not only receiving the ocean's natural direction, but she's been redirected by two neighboring lots. So her situation, Mrs. Hanlon that is, was a little more extreme than others possibly. So that's kind of what I have as the facts.
Joe, that's your neck of the woods.
Yeah.
Do you have,
The rush over that wall and the water coming down through there is pretty intense.
Strong.
And it comes
Very
from the
strong.
neighboring properties into your space as well. If you put concrete, it's going to simply relocate the problem.
right,
And with the concrete additions, it's relocated down to my house. You know, we've seen that since they fixed the seawall, we have almost 8 inches less water since they fixed the seawall there. It's a tough spot. We have to do something to mitigate the flow.
it
so
seems like
will
an
draw.
engineering problem. So, are you the homeowner?
I am.
Would you like to say something?
Sure. Let me turn it over to my neighbor who sees it all.
I'm also the Hanlon's family attorney. My name's Paul Flavin. I live at 59 Bay Ave, across the street. I understand the Conservation Commission wants pervious material, and I assume that's so the water would percolate down into the ground
Correct.
without dispersing everywhere. First and foremost, during these storms, the water's going across Bay Ave. It's flooding my neighborhood. It's going down Joe's house. The concrete's not stopping it. Riprap's not stopping it. It is that fast moving and that powerful. The issue with the Hanlon property is basically, and I understand the concept, the footprint of the old house was on a slab. The commission required, as part of building the new house, that footprint would remain impervious. That's on the, you know, the approved site plan. The only problem what's happened is, with the house being raised and the deck off the beach side of the house being raised, when the water comes over the seawall, it's landing in the beginning of the footprint, on the beach end of the footprint. And I even if I could, I've just got two pictures, which shows the underneath of the house. And you can see, one of the concerns the Conservation Commission has to have, the reason in 18 the seawall failed and the damage was there, my late brother owns the house beside the Hamlins, the porch collapsed. And I saw it, I was standing there. The concrete decking on the house side undermined, and it dropped, and that's what causes the damage. At the Hanlon house, right where the pervious area meets the concrete deck that goes to the seawall, it's starting to undermine. And that wasn't even one of the bad high tides. So if you were to put riprap there, the riprap is going to be in Joe's house, is going to be across the street, is going to be all over the place. In a perfect world, Debbie would like to have, Mrs. Hanlon would like to have that all concrete. You know, I've suggested to her, why don't you suggest to the commission, I personally think, from observation, I'm not an engineer, when that water comes over, you want that water, when it's high velocity, hitting something that can absorb the impact. You don't want sand or pea stone. All it does is go, I'm across the street and my driveway gets destroyed. And I'm across the
Not
street.
from me. He's down the way.
He's down the street.
And I'm almost thinking, if she were allowed to put concrete, and again, I'm not an expert, halfway, I think it's 30 feet, halfway, the waves will hit the concrete and then rush to what would be the catch basin, the other half, which would be riprap and bigger rocks, and it could act as a catch basin then. But you want to get the water to that point. Right now, all that happens is it undermines, it becomes 4 feet of water, and then it's almost like a river, and the water's free flowing through the house, under the house.
Anything there gets taken with
And it gets taken and it's all over the place, and you have what you see in a photograph. I even have, I don't want to take up, it's 1 minute. There's a video here taken by Marshfield Woodworkers, and it shows you, and you can hear the fellow say it's not even high tide yet, and it shows you the waves, and they're hitting the area in the picture right where the pervious area begins, near the seawall. And if you could have concrete a little further in, that water would hit the concrete, that would absorb the velocity, and then it would continue and be absorbed by the area, you know, further up towards the street that would be crushed stone and riprap. I think you'd have a better chance of catching the water that way. It's not working this way, it's just not working.
Here's what I would say. We have really only two options. We can say, hey, these were the orders of conditions, and we can't change that. Or we can look at an amended order of conditions, which, correct me if I'm wrong, could they hire an engineer?
Right, then you bring the engineer back. This is a good way to go, yeah.
To get you know,
Kind of a plan?
I understand what you're saying, if there
Yep.
was more impervious there, but none of us are engineers.
Yep.
And water,
And I point out, on the plan, before there was, there's 300 square feet less of concrete now.
Right, so
than before.
that, just for the public and for you all, that was the mitigation that allowed the commission to say the project is beneficial.
Yeah, I
But
assume that.
What Joe and I talked about with Jim, and Jim's got a good mind for this because he builds all kinds of stuff, was different type of interlocking rock. I'm talking small, medium, large, very large rock on the front end and taper it. And we kind of came up with stuff, but we're not engineers either.
Right.
So we're just shooting the moon on it. So the amended might be the way to go, and you might be able to take and make that work. You could probably put, you know, the name of it, what do you guys put down with it?
I think you're on the, sorry, Bill, but I think you're on the right track. But in addition to impervious, you also need to dissipate the energy. That's a problem.
That's-
Right, because
that's
if
coming
you-
up.
if you go straight
Yeah.
concrete,
And
you're just gonna
again-
sheet it on the neighbors, and that's not really
No,
what's gonna
I'm
happen.
dropped
So you-
down.
so
The
you
building,
need to-
it's happening. It's
I
happening no
know.
matter what.
Yeah.
So here's what I would propose.
That's a big fallacy down Green Harbor. That, it is. When we get those northeasters, the entire neighborhood floods. I don't care what impervious material you put there, what mitigation, it's coming and you can't stop it. No way.
It runs
Yeah.
over
The one thing
anything.
that we have to do is mitigate the velocity.
Right.
And the water
And I think-
percolating.
That's the only
too.
thing we're gonna get savior on.
And I think we need an engineer to,
And I just saw the word, a geotextile, these kind of, but an engineer is going to help out better than us trying our best in that visit. And that Jim was trying his best too. But I think you really need to do an amended order of conditions to address any changes that are gonna go against what the commission originally provided as mitigation to get the project. You know, that was an important element to it. So that gives you the best chance to achieve what your outcome is.
And the best, and obviously to have an engineer's plan that's explaining exactly what we want to do.
Right, and
Correct.
so then we're
so
all
that we can
laypersons
amend
here.
the
Yeah.
orders of conditions. Because as they stand right now, they require that pervious surface.
Yes,
Which
yep.
is not working
Yeah.
for anybody.
Yeah.
So I would propose that we vote to require an amended order of conditions, and that allows you to come back to us with an engineered plan for some kind of dissipation
Yes.
Yeah.
of that velocity coming over the
I'll talk with
wall.
Brian Taylor.
And if that plan says, yes, the half concrete sounds very good, and then the stone on the other half sounds very good, you would go with that?
So we need to.
We would
see
need
an
to-
You consider it.
evaluation.
No, I'm saying, if they,
consider it?
if an engineer wrote
We
that
will
up,
consider,
Yes,
But then what they're gonna do is they're gonna look at the performance standards for Barrier Beach Coastal Dune, and that has to be met. And also the buffer zone of the coastal beach. So those are all important variables. So if you want, I can provide that for you and you can read it. It's a little dull, but you know, the engineer will understand it. And they have to show how those impacts, there's no significant adverse or cumulative adverse on those resource areas. So that's what the goal is, the outcome. Merging the engineering with the performance standards so the commission can make a determination. And that's what is really the outcome of this.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
The engineer will know how to deal with that.
so I move that we vote to allow for an amended order of conditions so they can come back with an engineered plan that we can review. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, that passes.
Thank you very much for your listening.
Good detail. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you.
too. Eric, you got these.
Okay, business 4, de minimis activity.
So we have 2 new cases this week since the last meeting. We have the South River Substation, the parcel just behind that. Eversource is looking to do tree removal. Bill and I visited the site and found no issues with the trees they were looking to take. We also have 35 Mayflower Road, where Mrs. Nees is looking to do vegetative management. This is cutting between the 50 and 100 setback to a bordering vegetative wetland. And this has been provided to the commissioners on a site plan provided by Duxbury Construction.
Okay, I propose that we vote to ratify both of these as de minimis activity. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Opposed? Okay,
Got it.
motion passes.
Well done, Eric. Well done, everybody.
So now we are on to the public meetings and hearings. We have no scheduled continuations,
No, well, we don't have any scheduled ones, no. No scheduled ones, correct.
so, okay. Okay, our first public hearing is a new one. I will read the legal notice. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Tuesday, June 15th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by Matthew and Angela Griffith for 8 Water Street in Marshfield. And the hearing officer is Commissioner Alagi.
Okay. Tax has been paid, Bill?
Oh, Eric, I'm sorry, I'm gonna give you these things.
Eric?
Sorry about that, let me,
I was trying to signal to him, but that
yeah,
is-
no, I just, that caught my attention though, Mr. Commissioner.
Taxes were confirmed on
Okay.
June 3rd.
So, this is a fairly straightforward fence to keep some doggies in. And we just have a few, probably things to go over with that. So is someone here to present the project?
Both my husband and I are.
Okay, state your names and tell us about the project.
Angela Griffith.
Matt Griffith.
I'm just looking to put a 4-foot by 8-foot around, I think it's probably 40 feet of the house, from the front of the house. I think I drew I think you guys all have the drawing.
They all,
So you can see where the fence is supposed to go. It's just a small 4-foot Nantucket white fence. It's nothing ugly. It's not a stockade.
So the fence that's laying there now on the ground, that's not
Oh,
the
no,
fence?
that's not going
I didn't
on.
think so.
No, no, no.
Right. All right. So I think that the main thing for my end is that there'd be a gap underneath, like 6 inches. Your doggies are pretty good size, so they're not gonna crawl under that. That way, other critters can get
For
through
what
it
you
to
want
their
in the
demise. Can get in. I ask, do any other, well, Bill, let me ask you, and then I'm gonna ask other commissioners if you wanna make some comments.
Yeah, what kind of fence are you putting up, do you know? Is it cyclone or, what do
No,
you
it's
call
a
it, chain?
Nantucket style.
It's just
Nantucket.
a Nantucket, like every other picket.
Yeah, you need a little bit up due to the fact that water and sand, you can move around. You're at Barry Beach Coastal Dune, so to meet performance standards, that's pretty important to do.
That's the 6 inches.
I'm in
Yeah,
that
6
same
inches.
area, I think it's 6 inches.
Yeah.
And that'll let that happen, plus then the water won't backlog onto your neighbors with them be calling me and complaining, I gotta put 25 cubic yards or whatever, you know what I mean? This is what ends up happening, so we
Yeah,
don't
no,
want,
I-
it's called cumulative effects, that's all. That's it.
And this gonna be plastic fence?
We haven't decided. I was gonna do vinyl, but I think I like the wood better.
Until you
Any other
find the price of
commissioners?
it now.
I know, until I
Not
go,
because
until I go
everything
to
else
order
is
it.
wood.
And then I have to paint it, but
No other commissioners, okay. Then, anyone from the audience? Anyone, public on Zoom, no one? Okay, then I'm gonna make a motion that we vote to issue positive determination 5 for the bylaws and -3 with special conditions. I think one of them is the 6 inches up. Bill, do you have any other special conditions?
Eric, I think we just said
Eric, I'm
that.
sorry.
Yeah, we just have the normal 3, ensure best management practices, building codes are followed before commencing work, obtain all subsequent permits, including Marshfield zoning board of appeals, and building permits, see conservation administrator or agent for guidance on conservation permits for work beyond the approved work activities, and ensure a gap between the ground and the bottom of the fence.
Okay, may I have a second?
second?
Second, thank you, Susan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 500.
Okay, well, Eric will put it together, Liz will help get the signatures, they'll submit it to you, and you're up and running, you know?
That's great. Thank
Yeah,
so
I don't think
much.
you need a building permit on that one, we just throw it in there as a standard, you know?
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you for your patience.
Okay. The next RDA is also new, so in compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection. A public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Tuesday, June 15th, 2021 at 6:30 PM to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by Tom Murray for 256 Ocean Street, Marshfield. And the hearing officer is Commissioner Ring.
So this is a fairly straightforward, I think, deck replacement. The property is in lot land subject to coastal flowage, AE 12, at Barrier Beach and Coastal Dune. It's all undisturbed property. I don't know if I have much more to say about that. Is there anybody here who'd like to talk about it?
Just-
I went to the site, and I didn't find anybody there. Eric, you went there?
Yeah, I would just quickly note that just to confirm the admin that the taxes were confirmed on.
I forgot that.
No worries.
And have they?
Yes, on
Yeah.
6.
Thank you. Is there anybody here interested in talking about this? Hearing no one?
There's somebody waving.
Hi,
Can you guys hear me?
yes.
Could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Sure, my name's Tom Grelland. I live in Marshfield. I'm the licensed carpenter that's being hired by Mr. Murray, the owner of the property, to repair the deck. It's an existing 10 by 12 deck. It's a wooden deck. It's really in disrepair. We would like to just remove it and put on a 16 by 20 deck. That would have a composite decking and railing system. There's no large machinery to be used here. There's no fill to be removed or brought in, and there'll be no disturbance to any vegetation on the site. It's pretty much just remove that smaller deck that's in disrepair and replace it with a new one.
Where are you in Carolyn Circle again?
Yes, sir. I'm at 44 Carolyn Circle in Marshfield.
Okay, got it.
And you're proposing to use diamond piers, right?
Yes, sir. Four diamond piers.
Thank you.
Those are greatly appreciated, Mr. Greenland. They diminish any impacts. They really are a quality approach.
Thank you. Any commissioners' discussions?
I took a quick look at it, it looks fine to me.
Yeah, looks fine.
So, is any member of the public, anybody on Zoom who would like to talk about this? I don't see anybody there. I don't see anybody here. So with that, I would like to close this hearing with a vote to issue a positive determination number 5 for the bylaw and a negative number 3 for the special conditions. Eric, are you going to do the special conditions?
Yes, we just have the standard ones for this one. We have ensure best management practices and building codes are followed before commencing the work, obtain all subsequent permits, including Marshfield Zoning Board of Appeals and building permits. See the conservation administrator or agent for guidance on conservation permits for work beyond the approved work activities.
Thank you.
Tom, when you get to building permit going, either Liz or Eric can help you rock and roll that out, okay? The permit should be done pretty quick. We're gonna try and get these out and signed today and turn them around, hopefully by Wednesday or Thursday. So check in with us, please.
Great, thank you.
Does
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does the
You've been
motion
very
have a
patient,
second?
Mr. Blige.
Second?
Thank you, Susan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Seeing nobody remaining to vote negative, I say the motion carries 500.
Okay. On to the next. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Tuesday, June 15th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by Richard Doyle for 88 Marginal Street, Marshfield. And the hearing officer will be Commissioner Callan.
Eric, do we have taxes paid?
Yes, taxes were confirmed on 6/3.
This is a simple application for the consideration of a deck extension, which is within riverfront area in buffer zone to Salt Marsh. And Eric is going to present conservation issue for the applicant.
Yep, so Mr. Doyle has asked me to present this for him to the commission tonight. The proposed work is just the extension of a deck along the back side of the house. The deck is not moving closer to the wetland, it's just stretching along the back of the house. He's also outside of the 50 setback to the salt marsh and is outside of the flood zone which overlaps the rear of his property. I did a site visit there on June 7th and saw no issues with the project. The area to be worked on is pre-disturbed lawn. The staircase is going to be moved to the right side, that's the street side of the deck. So again, no closer to the wetland. And lastly, there are exemptions under the Wetlands Protection Act for conversion of lawn to deck outside of the 50 and in riverfront for both.
One other thing, this area is a pretty beautiful, pretty unique harbor. So aesthetics are part of your chapter 505, something to consider on something like this. So getting a permit is probably in line.
Do we have any comments from commissioners on this question? No? Anybody from the audience have questions on this or on Zoom? Any questions from anyone? Comments? All right, well, seeing none of that, I would like to suggest that we approve this hearing and vote to issue a positive determination number 5 for the bylaw, a negative 5 for the state exemption 310 CMR 10.02 2B 2E for the buffer zone, and 310 CMR 10.02 2A, and 1 for riverfront, and a negative 3 with special conditions. And Eric, would you like to handle the conditions?
Same for you as last time. We have ensured best management practices and building codes are followed before commencing the work, obtain all subsequent permits, including Marshfield Zoning Board of Appeals and building permits, and C, the conservation administrator or agent for guidance on conservation permits for work beyond the approved work activities.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 500. Thank you.
Okay. Another new application. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Tuesday, June 15th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by Mark McGrath at 1215 South River Street. And this is once again Commissioner Karen.
Eric, how are we on taxes? All set?
Taxes were confirmed on June 3rd.
Okay, and this is the applicant, Mr. Mark McGrath, is requesting permission to replace his existing driveway and make some additional improvements within 100 feet of the buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. And again, Eric will be presenting for the applicant.
Yep. I see Mr. McGrath is online, but he has asked me to present his work to the commission tonight as well. So as you stated, the work is a replacement of the existing driveway, as well as the expansion of a turnout area at the end of the driveway on the house side, which is currently about 1.5 car widths. He would like to space that out to 3 car widths. He would also like to add a new turnout for boat storage, potentially on the street side of the driveway, which would be on the side of the driveway further from the wetlands. We took an old site plan from an NOI for this property, and it was from 1996. And we were able to kind of depict where the 25, 50, and 75-foot setbacks might be based on that. It is an approximation. It is a site plan from 1996, but that was the best we were able to do with the information that we had. It appears that the boat turnout at the end of the driveway would be approximately around the 75-foot setback from the wetland. And the extension of the turnout at the house side of the driveway would be, I think, possibly within the 50, based on what we saw on this map. So I visited the site with Commissioner Carrion on June 9th, and we spoke with the homeowner. He made it clear to us that his primary concern with this turnaround was the safety of exiting the driveway. That backing out of the driveway is extremely unsafe, and that when more than one car are parked there, it makes for dangerous conditions exiting the house. So that was something he made clear to us in our site visit there. I also noted that the driveway was in poor condition. The majority of this work would be exempted based on replacement of driveway within existing footprint. I think the only things that need to be considered are the expansion of the turnaround and the adding of a turnout at the end. I think that it's maybe, pushing the limits of what we can do with an RDA, but it's also something that appears to be within the lines of the performance standards in the Chapter 505 regulations that would not require a mitigation permit or variance if it were to be approved.
Do we have any commissioner comments or questions? Anybody? I would just like to add that the slight increase in impervious within approximately closer to the wetland, to me, the danger of that driveway outweighs that small increase in impervious surface. I don't know if anybody tried to drive down that driveway, but there's absolutely no safe way that you could ever back out of that driveway between the curb and the heavy traffic from that road. So, and I don't think there'd be any adverse impacts from that small increase. So.
Just Commissioner Karen's point, public safety is part of your wetland values in Chapter 505, so it's a good call out.
Do we have any public, is there anyone here from the public or anyone on Zoom that needs to speak? Would like to? Seeing none, what I'd like to do is make a motion to approve this request and vote to issue a positive determination 5 for the bylaw and a -3 for the negative 3 with special conditions. And Eric, would you?
Sure, so we have ensure best management practices and building codes are followed before commencement of the work, obtain all subsequent permits, including Marshfield zoning board of appeals and building permits. See the conservation administrator or agent for guidance on permits beyond the approved work activities. And lastly, that the work shall be in accordance with the plan listed on WPA Form 1, project description, plan and/or map reference. And Mark, for your information, that's the plan that we submitted as part of the RDA package, where you marked up the existing area.
May I have a second?
Second.
Joe?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Well, Mr. McGrath, thanks for returning together again and finding your way home and working with the Commissioner Karen and Agent Flint. Just make sure that you abide by the plan that you provided in the RDA, okay?
Thank you. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. I can do 3 cars in a turnout, right? That's sort of my main objective, is to be able to have, I can't fit cars side by side in the garage, so I have to have one in the turnout, and if I have like a UPS guy or mail person come in, they need to have that space. I can add those without an issue. I don't need to get another permit from the town, right, since that's an existing driveway, or do I?
You use the plan that you submitted, so don't go beyond that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Take care.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay, that completes our RDAs, and now our first notice of intent. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public meeting will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Tuesday, June 15th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. In hearing room 3 to consider the notice of intent filed by Maura Kiefer at 747 Ocean Street. And the hearing officer is Vice Chair O'Donnell.
Okay, the bill or Eric, taxes, abutters, and the EP number?
Yeah, taxes were paid, confirmed on 6/3, abutters notified, verified on 6/8, and DEP number received on 6/9.
Okay, I see John Zimmer on Zoom. Are you presenting, John?
Yes, I am.
Okay, we're hearing you loud and clear, so please proceed.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. For the record, John Zimmer, South River Environmental, on behalf of the Kiefers. What they are looking to do is construct a 25 by 28 3-season porch addition to their existing residence. The addition will be supported on concrete footings. It's not intended to be quote-unquote habitable space, and it does not meet the cost requirements to kick in the floodplain regulations. It's already been through zoning and it's been approved by zoning. I did go out and delineate a bordering vegetated wetland around the perimeter of the property. It's also located on Barrier Beach and by default coastal dune, as well as land subject to coastal storm flowage. I did speak with Ms. Kiefer about the location of the fence to the rear of the property, and she is going to relocate that to the property boundary. Right now it's a little bit off of the property. So I did let her know that basically was not in compliance and she needed to move that in. And so she was going to go ahead and do that, but wanted to get it through the conservation process first, just to make sure that that was covered, and anything else, any other conditions that the commission may have on it. That's about it in a nutshell. The work is located outside of 25. It's actually, the majority is actually outside of the 50 as well. It's a lot with an existing structure on it, and so the setback is the 25. But that is about it in a nutshell. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thanks, John. I also see a proposed patio. Is that?
Yes. Yep, there's a proposed pervious patio off the back end of it. It's gonna be accessed, off of the addition. Bill and Eric did request a detail on the paver on the site plan, which was submitted, but I believe it was submitted on Monday, so the commission, I'm not sure the commission has that information yet. But it's intended to be a pervious paver patio.
Okay, and just from my understanding, what's going away that reduces the impervious area? What's being removed? Did you mention that?
Right now, there's an existing concrete walkway that's basically going to be removed, a portion of it that's basically shown under the addition right now. So that's all going to be removed, and the addition will be open underneath, so that area will all remain impervious.
Okay, great, got it. Bill or Eric, do one of you want to comment on this?
Yeah, I mean, I did a site visit on June 8th. I looked at the wetland flags and didn't find any issues. I spoke with Mrs. Keeper, the homeowner. She took me around and, went over the proposed work. She mentioned that she was planning on moving back the sign and was going to try and rush it to get it done before this meeting, but I told her that she might as well wait until the commission, came up with their determination of what they wanted to do. There's a small patch of grass behind that fence, which is on town-owned land. I think it would make sense if the fence was moved back to the property line, which is also approximately the 25-foot setback. And I think that could be a good opportunity just to put up markers on that fence, just to ensure that vegetation behind the property line within the 25 grows back and fulfills its role as a natural buffer. Mrs. Keeper also noted that she had experience with lots of invasive vines on the property and in the yard, and she had requested that hand maintenance of these vines be something considered as part of this hearing. So that could be a condition that we could add in if approved tonight. And then just at the last note I would make is that it seems that some of the, if you're looking at the site plan on the right side of the plan, some of the work on the property extends past even the paper street in the middle onto a private property, and is also close to the 25-foot buffer of the wetland. There's just gravel back there. I'm not sure it's relevant for this project, but it might be something the commission wants to keep in mind. And we might want to clarify that anything approved as part of order conditions for this hearing would be, only related to the Mrs. Keeper's property and the property rights associated with it on Paper Street.
Sounds good, thank you. Comments from other commissioners? All looks good. Comments from the public. Is there anybody that would like to comment on this project? I hear none. So Eric, would there be any other special conditions other than moving that fence and the standard conditions?
So I would maybe just suggest adding a D0 saying that the order is only applicable to property rights and rights associated with the property. Also maybe the posting of 4 permanent conservation markers on that fence once it's moved back, and to make that a perpetual condition.
I would agree with that.
And then also, if we were to allow the hand maintenance of invasive vines, especially growing on the trees in that property, there's a few young trees that are getting stifled.
That's good too.
Do you want me to read through the list?
If the rest of it's just standard, you don't have to, unless any other commissioners would like to hear all the conditions. In that case, I'd like to close the hearing and issue special conditions. Have I got a second?
Second. That was a fast one.
Second, Craig?
We'll give it to Susan according to
Oh, Susan, okay.
Oh, Craig? Craig, all right.
No, it wasn't me.
Who is it? Come on, Art, help
It
me
was
out.
Art and Susan. See,
Put you both down, what's
voice,
going on
I don't
there?
know who it is.
Help me out, Craig or Susan? Craig?
Susan.
Susan.
All right.
Okay, that's fine. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous, Bill.
All right, yeah, I'm clear with these, except for Susan.
Thank you, John.
All right, thanks very much.
Bye, John.
Have a good night.
Okay, another new NOI. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Tuesday, June 15th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. To consider a notice of intent filed by Janet Heavey, estate of Evelyn Heavey at 224 School Street in Marshfield. And the hearing officer is once again Vice Chair O'Donnell.
Thank you. Eric, do you want to confirm taxes, abutters, and DEP number?
Yep, we had taxes on 6-3, butters on 6-1, and DEP number on 6-9.
Okay, do we have anybody here to present this project? I see.
My name is Robert Crawford. I have very poor audio reception here. I heard 224 mentioned, but I thought somebody said Forest Street. If this is School Street, I'm here.
It's School Street, Mr. Crawford. We're hearing you loud and clear. Are you hearing me now?
I'm hearing you, yes.
Okay.
Some of the others are very illegible.
Okay, we'll try to speak up. You want to go ahead and explain the project?
Yes, my name is Robert Crawford. I'm representing the Heavies, the owners of the property. It's proposed to construct a new disposal system on the property to replace the two existing failed cesspools. The lot itself is about 2.3 acres on the northwest side of School Street, about 1,400 feet southerly from Forest Street. There is a stream that runs across basically on the street line of School Street across the front of the lot, which heads to the south and then turns and goes up to, I believe, a pond up in the Rod and Gun Club property. The top of bank of the stream was flagged by South River Environmental on April 27th, and the flags are shown on the plan. The new system consists of a 1,500-gallon septic tank, which is about 77 feet from the bank. However, it is in the inner riparian zone associated with the stream. The leaching facility is outside of the 100-foot buffer, but it's within the outer riparian zone. Actually, it is closest point 104.5 feet from the stream. The new system consists of 124 linear feet of arc standard plastic chambers. They're replaced within a 13 by 31 bed, 4 rows of 6 chambers. The soil there is excellent, sand and gravel, the lowest perk rate that's picked up by Title V, and the water table is about 12 feet down. In association with the project, there will have to be a little grading, a little fill, about 6 inches added over the septic tank and the pipe between the tank and the house to provide proper cover. And we have provided an erosion control barrier to prevent siltation of the brook in an area where I felt it was necessary. Try to answer any questions you may have.
Has it already been in front of Board of Health?
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
Has it been approved by the Board of Health?
Yes, it has.
Okay, thank you. Eric, are you going to comment on this one?
Yeah, not too much to say about this one. The only reason it's under our jurisdiction here, I think, is because the septic tank is within the 100. DEP commented and said that this is an activity exempted from their regulations, so I think this is pretty straightforward. I visited the site and talked to the homeowner on June 8th. He mentioned that he was planning on moving originally and putting this in, and now he's not necessarily going to do this work right away. So I think we want to just make sure to clearly communicate that any extension should be filed in a timely fashion, or orders or COC should be filed to close it out if the work is never done.
What's the status of that brook or stream? Is it perennial?
It was perennial, yeah. So the The stream runs through the front of the house. It's pretty much lawn all the way down to the bank, manicured lawn. It is a perennial stream, yeah.
Bert, we had 300 School Street, and we had a ton of issues going back to Warren Harrington era, and we already went down that road on School Street stream. It definitely is perennial.
Okay. In this case, with this septic system, I think all looks fine, and I visited the site. It doesn't look like anything has been changed in years. If they do any other work on that property, please remind them they're gonna have to come back. You know, in the future, it'd be nice to get some mitigation there, but I think in this case, the septic system is an upgrade, and it's fine with me.
Yeah.
I'd like to open it up to comments from other commissioners. I hear none. In that case, any special conditions, Eric, or stand?
No, standard. The only thing I didn't put in here was the erosion control, but we can add that in later, aside from that standard.
Okay, and also, any comments from the public? Is there anybody here that would like to speak on this? I don't hear anybody. I'd like to close the hearing and make a motion to issue special conditions. Have I got a second?
Second?
Or,
Second is aye. All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous, Bill.
Yep.
Thank you.
Indeed.
Thank you,
very
Mr.
much.
Crawford.
Mr. Crawford, nice job.
All right, on to 208 Enterprise Drive and 795 Plain Street, Resource Way LLC. This is a continued hearing, and the hearing officer is Commissioner Logging.
All right, Terry, I'm gonna just.
If you want to do that, that's fine, or I may be able to share it, but yeah, we'll do it this way. I gotta figure out how to do this.
Sort of deviate, this project has been a bit of a challenge involving segmentation. And I'm going to try and break it down into some simplified points to go through. And I'm going to, I want to go through them, and then we're going to have Terry present. And hopefully we can sort of get through these, or at least bookmark things that we can't complete. Hopefully we can complete them all. So my attempt to simplify, following the two continuations on this, is the first question is basic in that do we have everything we need from the various departments that we've asked information for to proceed and not continue? So that's the first question.
Okay, I think you got a set of comments from the town engineer, and then a revision set of comments from him. There was nothing glaring from the Mass DEP. We've got a letter from the Pembroke Herring Commission, and obviously this is a really important area. Hulda Brook is an important area. So it feeds into Pembroke's fishery. They have 500,000 fish going up and down their system, and they'd like to make sure that any impacts upstream are protected. So we had all that. I think I have a laundry list of things on the plans which I'd like to share. I don't think they're game stoppers, but I think they need to get corrected because the way the plans are presented, it's not only one department, it's the second department, planning, that also is going to be playing into this. They need our wetland line. They are waiting on us, and there's certain things that need to get cleaned up. We still have the isolated land subject to flooding showing up on the plan on 2 sheets that needs to get changed to an isolated vegetated wetland with the 25, 50, and 75-foot setback. That does not affect Lot 2, that does not affect the drainage, but I think it's a correction that needs to happen so that planning also will have that, because we're going to need to work in tandem in this area with planning to make sure that the project is smooth and it transacts cleanly and so on. And we can call out the laundry list, or I can work with Terry secondarily. Some of my comments on the plans were minor, some were a little bit more involved. I think you have a good O&M plan, and in sheet 14, not to belabor this, I know you want me to be quick, One of the key things is the maintenance of the drainage basin. And Rod had actually called out, that whoever's the benefactor of that drainage needs to be called out and needs to have an easement, or he should have an easement. So I would suggest that the commission follow that, and we need to do two things. One, we need to know who is going to maintain drainage lot B and the ditch that feeds from drainage lot A. It's a real simple process. Drainage lot A's been there for a while. We've got a ditch that goes down into drainage lot B. The other comment I had on this is we need to have a clear terminus where there's no more going down the drainage swale. So what's getting constructed here would be, there'd have to be an end of it. We wouldn't go all the way down to the wetland. We'd let nature run the water down past the end of the system. So we want to make sure that that is also called out. This is complicated in that we have lot 2 and the drainage lot being called out, but under the notice of intent, the activity was exclusively for the road, the drainage, and the utilities. However, that doesn't mean it doesn't give life to lot 2, which the planning board needs to do, so that the McDougals can come back with a separate NOI later, and they understand this. And so, long story short, as long as we have that clarified, that is super helpful. We also do not have riverfront here. I'm not sure where the source came from, but I followed it and I didn't check it out myself. Terry has cleaned that up. It's in an intermittent stream, so you no longer have riverfront on the property. That reduces down the protected comments that I had the other day, which were riverfront, 50-foot setback, or tree line, whichever is greater. So now we have to readjust on that. And I think what you have to have, my personal suggestion is 100-foot buffer off the bordering vegetated wetland, once we get that all wrapped up, from along the Halda Brook, and then it sort of makes an L-shaped leg along the highway. So there's a wetland down there also, but it's not directly along the highway. So I was suggesting 50-foot setback there, because typically you would allow on new, and that's what we have to treat this as new, disturbance down to 50. But in the case of the cold water fishery, I think the 100 is appropriate, or the tree line. Some of the tree line goes out beyond the 100-foot setback, and one of the problems I have with this plan right now, and I'd like to see it on a revised one, is the limit of clearance, so that we know what we got. All this tree line you're seeing here is existing tree line in black, and not the way it's driving crazy. And not the limit of clearing, which we had on 2 other subdivisions. We had it on 113 Union Street Bright, and we had it on the extension for the Veraki property at the end of Enterprise. So the limit of clearing is not shown, and we really need to have that. It needs to get flagged in the field also, I think, to make sure that we've got that covered. So I think that's kind of my comments right there for now. Conservation markers are definitely need to get called out, but again, this particular lot, if you look at the jurisdiction on it for the road, the drainage, and the utilities, it's rather minimal. But if we go approve this plan as it is, it goes to the planning department and they don't have the right wetland line and everything, that's an issue. So I also would like to see the flags called out for Brooke, but also for Brad and for Mike Garrett. I think he's got Garrett there. He has Brooke Monroe's, but I didn't see the flags for Brad. I didn't see the 25, 50, 75 around the isolated land subject to flooding. So those were things that I would suggest get resolved. This might sound like an awful lot to the average person, but what this is actually a laundry list to allow this to be updated so that planning has a clean plan that's approved by the commission and which is jurisdictional. We'd also probably consider closing this, and we would approve up through wetland flag 12 for Brooke Monroe and all of Garrett over there, because we already did that around the drainage lot A. And then when Mr. McDougall and his brother come back on lot 2, we'll do the rest of the wetland line, and we'll ask to be on lot, I think, the one at the front end also, and get it all resolved. I think that would be a potential game plan and allow this project to go forward. potentially closing tonight, but mopping it up a little bit.
All right, thanks, Bill. I want to just back up. Those are good, and we'll just vote on that shortly, I think. I just want to go through from the minutes, the things that were expressed, so the conservation markers we all dealt with. This restoration plan, is that still on the table now, or are we going to deal with that
I
when
think
we
that
get
comes
to other properties?
You know, frankly, commissioners, I think that they're gonna come back. Mr. McDougal's giving me, you know, that he's coming back. He knows the restoration is there. And once he owns the property, the other elements that are involved here go away. So now we have new owners that'll work with the commission, and that's that. The only on the restoration was we're leaving behind the restoration from the extension. So I'm suggesting also, one other thing is we link that in the D1 so that gets going here. We can't leave behind the mitigation, it has to go, right? So that if that had started, I wouldn't even throw it in right now. It would roll out.
So that will be, we'll enter in, let me finish this, only a couple more on that piece. So the impact on Halderbrook, as far as the concerns expressed by Pembroke, to the threat to Pudding Brook and Herringbrook, that's been addressed?
Yeah, what they've asked that in the design of this, that we provide as much protection as we can so that they don't get downgrading impacts or degraded water. We've seen what happened over at the other property that was sold off.
So that brings up the point that I think we're all clear that all the other pieces that will come after this road goes in will come to us for independent review and approval.
Yeah.
And we'll look at each one on a case by case, because they will have, in fact,
One thing on that
impact
point, I think commissioners would be this, is that if that's the way it's gonna roll out, it's a big project, okay? And there's the McDougal lot coming,
Right.
and then there's the unknown name of
Right.
the X one. And those are gonna have infrastructure impacts, they're gonna have structure. Now, they should be treated as new because the trees were cut without a permit.
Right.
Now, for 2 years, I've been in a holding pattern on dealing with, so I would say that most likely what I would say is the message needs to get out there that the stormwater, any changes to stormwater have to calculate in both those changes. And further, they should not be going closer than the 100 on Halderbrook, and they should not go closer than the 50 to the rear of the lot either. In other words, they can't drive in any further because you have to have a minimum amount of protection. There's a lot of water rushing through here, you know, a lot of water rushing through here.
Right, so the easement piece has been part of the comments already, and that will be taken care of. I had a question, Terry, on the size of just this that we're looking at now. This is less than 10 acres? About, what is this,
The
about?
total lot area that's being cut off and conveyed is 10 acres. Out of that, a portion of it, drainage lot B, takes about an acre chunk out of that, which apart from where the basin and the forebay will, the rest of it will remain untouched. So now you're down to, plus the cul-de-sac itself, you're down to about approximately 8 acres of usable area left.
Okay, so the reason for the question is natural heritage, whether natural heritage has to weigh in on
I
this.
can weigh in on that. So I checked further because there was some confusion on my end. He had checked no on the box. The 2021 Mass GIS shows that this has been delisted, which I knew. However, there's a certain minimum acreage sometimes kicks in overdrive. And so I checked with Natural Heritage and I got confirmation that Natural Heritage does not need a separate MESA review on this one. So that one is the reason I did not mention the comments earlier about Natural Heritage.
You're all set there
So I
then?
confirmed that
All
one.
right. And my last point is just to reemphasize that we're approving this one project, and so when we get into the others, that we will look at each one individually.
Yeah, well, individually, but I think there's some linking components.
Well,
That's
there
why-
is. I mean, a part of it is whatever activity the marijuana piece of this is going to be, whether
If
it's
it
going to be
doesn't matter.
growing, or if this is going to be a retail store, or where they're going to get water from and so forth. So anyway, I don't want to bring that up now. I'm just saying that there will have downstream effects.
So the hearing officer and I met with planning because this is going to require some coordination. And McDougal's gate control is gonna get the other lot, but the infrastructure changes will potentially impact the isolated vegetated wetland in the front end, the Holder Brook, and the wetlands to the rear. So the commission should be considering those cumulative effects in their activities. Linking may be needed, I'm not sure. You have separate owners, that gets burdensome. So we have to make sure that if there's one designer involved, that designer makes sure that those things are all interconnected.
Okay, that's it. And I want to thank Terry too. For last Friday, we took a pretty good tour of the property. Did you get any ticks on you, Terry?
None that nothing there.
I had ticks after I went
I
in there
did
with
too.
Mr. Connors, yeah.
I was there, I had no ticks.
Yeah.
See, you did your favor.
All right, that's it. Terry, do you like
My turn now?
Your turn now.
Good. Feel a little bit like my client is being linked to a bunch of other things that he has no control over, but I'll let that go for a moment, because really what we're focused on is this piece that's south of the power line that ultimately Mike and Dave McDougal, who are here, and Mike Verrocchi, who owns the access, is also here with me, are in control of. So if there's other plans for the forward part of 795 Plain Street, I'm going to go on record right now saying nothing that we've been approached on. And obviously, were we to do that, we would make the same diligent effort that we're trying to do here to manage our stormwater. With respect to a couple of Bill's comments, the limits of the tree clearing are in fact shown on the plan. They've been on from the beginning. The wavy line that notes the tree line had been on there since we went out and surveyed it. Arthur, you and I walked out to the back of the property. The wetland flags are all on there. I finally sorted out where Brooks ended and Brad's began, but I have on the plan set that you have that was distributed last week. Notes all three biologists on there, Brooke, Brad, and Mark Garrett, having done the basin, although we're still attempting to solve how the flags got down into the drainage channel. And what we've done, based on really just a few comments, really from the first hearing, and then just some minor impressions from Memorial Day Sunday that were out there, is, we've listened, and I've actually reached out to Marine Fisheries about their classification of Alderbrook. I actually had a conversation with Bill Bolter, whom I know from Pembroke today. Because I've known him since I was about yay high. So I reached out to him as well as Bob Clark, having grown up in Pembroke. I know that stream ultimately comes down through Pudding Brook, as does Little Pudding Brook, which runs by the old house. And so what we've done is to basically pull our stormwater for this portion of the project farther away from that bordering vegetated wetland that actually emanates from a culvert up, coming out of Route 3, up almost parallel to the end of where our road goes into the future electronic message board site. And as you can see on here, Eric, if you could flip, just scroll down.
Before you go, Terry, I had a quick question. I don't mean to be rude and interrupt, but on the limited clearing versus existing tree line, can you show me where the limited clearing is on this one here? Because
Yeah, it's
basically the scalloped area went right through.
It's basically the wavy line, that scallop line that starts, kind of follows the basin around the south side, comes across, kind of squares off, goes up, makes that angle up and around and back in. And that was shot in by our guys when they topoed it.
It actually, the scallop, it looked like in a couple of plants, it went right through the stormwater basin. Am I wrong?
Down in this area, there's a little portion of it. On this side, there were wetland flag, the big stormwater or the one that we're proposing?
The one where, right in the center of the circle, doesn't the scallop line go right through the area with the
It
road?
comes up and
Yeah.
nips the, yep.
Yeah, you
nips
see it there.
Right through the basin, in that area it's.
My
strong.
semantics may be wrong,
Yep.
Terry. What I'm looking
No,
for is
it
like what
does.
you did for Mr. Veraki on his property, and Mr. Green on his, which was gonna be the limit of clearing and not the existing cutting. Because I think there, what we have is we have a little bit of an overlap, and the commissioners should know what the limit of are gonna be. Now, as Mr. McDougal knows, when we got involved with the other property, there were stakes up for the limit of clearing, so that we didn't have any issues, and yet other people got themselves over the line. So that's how he got involved, which was great, you know? So what I'm saying is this, is we just need to make sure that we have the limit of clearing, so that he has a good go-by.
Well, that would obviously be staked in the field, and that's noted in our operations.
Right, but
and
also
our
on one of
construction
the plans,
sequence.
so the commission can see it too. So I'm saying that we could just get that on there.
What, Bill, I'm missing your point. The
all right,
line is on there, and we'd be clearing into that section, which is, the edge of our grading has been pulled back from the 50-foot to the 75-foot in that location. We've actually pulled that pavement back and pulled the basin back. And so the limits of clearing, when the time comes, would be staked in the field.
So the grade areas where you have the grade changes to the, I'm gonna try to say to the 7 o'clock position of the plan there. Shouldn't the scallop go around when the grades are changing?
That's the existing.
Right, and I'm looking for the limit of cutting, that's all. Well, we got it. So we could probably figure that out.
Yeah, if you want me to just add a line showing that, that's.
Perfect, Terry.
Now I understand.
If I confused the matter, I apologize to commissioners, I apologize to the public, and I apologize to you. That's what I'm looking for.
So I think
That's an easy.
Yeah, I think we have everything now, Terry. I think we, I'm not gonna ask Bill to go through everything that we just did.
No, I just want to
we
make sure
have
I
it.
understood
Okay.
what he was asking. You know, and again, I don't want to make a long presentation, because we've certainly looked at this a lot, but if you basically look to the left side, or the right side, I'm sorry, of the cul-de-sac going towards the existing basin, you know, as we walked that channel, and as I've walked it repeatedly over the last 6 months to a year and looked at it, you know, we've looked at ways to, and I've mentioned this too, I mentioned it in our site walk and then again to you, is to provide a mechanism out there to dissipate energy, which is what Rod also suggested, coming out of that basin. Our first iteration, we had shown the trap rock basically being placed down to about 75 feet off the wetlands. Didn't really think after reconsidering it, it was necessary to do that as much as it was to place the trap rock on the upper side. Bill, I don't know if you saw in the revisions that culvert is now an open bottom culvert with trap rock in it. It's not going to be something that's going to speed up water flow as it goes through it.
Thank you.
And then we've placed that energy dissipating basin at the immediate downstream end of that culvert, and also realigned the drainage, which before was kind of facing out the other way, so that that spillway comes into that stilling basin, which would be about 2 feet deep. And because we're really containing our own drainage within those two small basins off the end of that T turnaround, and that's there as much to basically provide additional energy dissipation for what's coming down from above, as well as going in and doing a little bit of repair on that spillway, which has deteriorated over the 35, almost 40 years that it's been in place.
So I think you gave that in your narrative that was received on June 8th, Terry. It was good, thank you.
And those were all not only comments that Rod had mentioned, but that, you know, I took away from the first hearing as well as comments in the field. With respect to the drainage easement, both the McDougals and Mr. Veraki are in agreement with placing that once they have control of the property. You know, it's And because there isn't a nice straight 20-foot channel like you might see in a subdivision plan, that easement could be executed in the form of a document too.
Yeah, as long
along
as
the
it's
text.
part of whatever we decide tonight that easement's gonna be in there, that was,
Yeah, and the other thing is this, I'm kind of going to ask Terry this. Do we have an idea who is going to be responsible right now? Because as Rod and I were talking, and he liked what you did here, he basically said, well, you know, we've got people working together right now. You've got Mr. Veraki and you've got Mr. McDougal and his brother, Mr. McDougal, working well together. But what happens when two new people come along? They don't get along anymore. So we got to figure out who's got maintenance control. That your sheet 14 is very detailed with tremendous tasks, daily, monthly, weekly, seasonal, etc. So this is great, but we need to know who's going to be the ultimate individual to maintain that, and that's a tricky one right now. So.
Well, apart from the initial outfall, most of the rest of your drainage, as well as all of drainage lot B, would remain under the control of the McDougals.
Yeah, we'll maintain it. We don't have any issue with that.
And you guys want to be there for a long time?
We'll formalize it too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get creative. If you work with your lawyers to do that, because if you were to leave, let's just say you got a better, you wanted to leave.
No, I understand what you're saying.
So we have to be able to transfer the thing
Yeah.
to the responsibility, because it maintains itself.
It'll be
And then Terry's
the cleanest
plan-
easement in town.
And so I gotta say this, so Terry's plan is gonna be on the living document, all the sheets. It also make it possible for the planning to help other properties come forward as well. So making sure that we have all that nailed down, the easement clean, so it's transferable if it comes out later. You need lawyers to do that, okay? And I think you guys know what to do.
any comments from other commissioners?
All right, well, I trust all these gentlemen and the documents that they produced. We got 14 out of 15 pages of drawings. And
The page you didn't get was a planning board quote-unquote decision page, which they haven't rendered a decision yet. It's kind of a placeholder.
and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I'm still giving Greg grief over it because we got rid of it for.
I'm trying to simplify this and make what I hope is a compliment. I trust that you're taking care of page 15,
Page
but we
15
can't
is the
deal
certificate
with
of action.
page 15 when we haven't seen it. I'm simply saying that we're trusting Terry and our experiences with him to say it's exactly as he says it's going to be, but we haven't seen it.
So
And
I
I'm
would
not saying to
that.
stop this.
Well,
it's
that
just-
is so I mentioned this at the last meeting, and it's sort of that we follow the same practices. And prior, we couldn't do anything that we didn't see. We couldn't vote on anything, but maybe there's a mechanism to say, well, it'll come to Bill or to Eric, and then it'll be fine. If
When it's
we
completed?
agree.
When page 15 is complete?
Right,
Yeah, that's fine
Your,
with me.
your certificate of
rather
action
than coming
is,
back.
it's the equivalent of your orders of conditions, which is issued by the planning board. They stopped requiring us to make a recorded sheet of it because you record the document as well. When Greg came back as town planner, he reinstated that. The problem is, you can't put anything on the sheet because they haven't rendered a decision yet. It's the chicken.
I agree with you. I'm just making the observation.
So I think we're
Yeah.
coming up to satisfy the needs of what we've been doing in the past to move this along.
So to satisfy what Joe's saying, and then the planning board, which has to be concurrent with conservation of this one, where do we put this thing? We want that sheet, but do we put it during the construction of the proposed work, or do we put it as post-construction of the proposed work? Because it's by nature the way that the town planner had worked it in. If you put it on the front end D1, they're paralyzed, they can't do this project because they can't get that. They're gonna come back to you and ask for a waiver, and that doesn't make any sense when we have the opportunity to put it in the right place and still get it. So I'm inclined to put it in the D3s post-construction, but I'm open
That's
to all.
fine, that's fine, I
Okay
think.
with you?
Okay.
Provide.
Any other commissioners?
I was gonna make it easier than that, but that's okay. Bill seems to have a handle on it.
That'll be,
Those plans, by the way, these plans, including that sheet, get recorded once the planning board issues its decision. Approximately 6 sheets of the set get recorded at the registry of deeds, similar to your orders of conditions. So once they issue that, since there's no homeowners association, there's no conservation restrictions, there's none of the stuff that normally would hold up endorsement and recording of subdivision plans. Once they issue the decision, these become Mylar plans, and not only do they go on file with the back to planning as the final plans, they go to the registry of deeds. I would expect that to happen within a 60-day roughly time frame. So that's when you will see that certificate of action. And
Any other
obviously, Bill
commissioners?
can reach out to Brett.
Yeah, I'd just like to understand, before Holderbrook had been considered a perennial stream, is that correct, Bill? Or was that erroneous
It's not a
information?
perennial stream, it's a intermittent stream, and it's also a cold water fishery. It's one of 8 in the town. I did share that with the policy and procedure core team. I think several of us were on that. And so we are aware of it. This was like SARS, and I don't have the number in front of me. It's actually listed as a item that's in your notes here. So there's no question it's a cold water fishery. It's an intermittent stream, and I don't know if there was evidence of brook trout actually being seen in there or not, but there may be. At least there's historic.
Well, I mean, the big thing is going to be, I mean, from the place Terry and I saw it, I think the main thing is that as these other properties get developed out, that there's this potential of all the junk going down into that and then winding up farther down into where there are herring and so forth.
And the thing is changing. I mean, I could take you to the other property. I'm not going to mention it. It's not anywhere near this. They called in the mosquito control. They hammered it. I made mosquito control go back and do some restoration. They don't normally do that. And those kind of things. So this is a whole different thing. We're actually protecting the 100-foot because they're willing to do that. They can still design their project within it. And that's the bare minimum on a high-quality wetland resource area like this.
So that cold water fisheries pamphlet that you included in our notes, this abides by those standards?
I think you're providing the protection that you need with that. That was provided also to the town engineer. He factored that in, and some of these things that he and Terry have put together have taken the pressure off due to that. So that's that teamwork came together. Yes.
But Bert, I think, because I'm right where Bert is on this, and I've had discussions on this, but for this project, it seems to be taken care of.
Yeah.
It's these other projects that is the main concern.
Right.
And why I
I
want
didn't catch
that in a
that.
minute.
So I thought I said that earlier. I mean, what you're doing is getting the basic core
That's right.
backbone there,
That's right.
and you're about to have 2 large projects get designed in within the open space that's there, and that's basically what's coming.
Right.
And the infrastructure being adequate, and the reason why to protect the cold water fishery and the wetlands that are there is the conversation we're having. That's, I think, the key. I think it meets the standards. It's taken the pressure off, and I don't know what the build out is, but I think they've got enough factored in here. And the other thing was that as the infrastructure comes up and structure comes up for lot 2 and whatever's going on in the front, that has to be cumulatively discussed by the designer so that we don't get a torrential storm going out there and gouging every bit of sediment out and having thermal and pollution impacts on the Holderbrook. I don't think anybody
So we're
wants that.
limiting it to, we've got it into our record that we are going to address that when these other lots come up.
Yeah, I'm
And
throwing
so
it out there
we're-
now.
Right, that's right. So we've mentioned it so several times. It's going to be in the minutes. And any other commissioners have any comments on this? Anyone from the public?
I have a question.
Sure.
When you speak of other lots, what are the other lots?
I know you do.
We know you, but we gotta tell your name.
Oh, Michael McDougal, sorry.
Yep.
I'm just confused. Are we focusing on my lot right now?
What's gonna happen is your lot and your brother's lot, along with whatever's gonna happen upstream, the water's gotta go somewhere. Now, they may send the water from the property on the other side of the transmission lines to a different basin. That could happen. And then your lot will be the only one that's gonna increase stormwater over there.
So just same question though, what lot, like what other lot?
Well,
Anything else?
So the transmission line goes through Connor property, okay? Connor has lot 2 that you're interested in, and just for sake of argument, on the other side of the transmission line, just for sake of argument, because I'm not looking at the plan right now, somebody else is showing some interest on the front end, who will buy that. And they will also have infrastructure changes that'll also cumulatively add stormwater impacts. Now, you can design additional infrastructure. We're just trying to build in early that these resource areas are important and its cumulative adverse effects of the lot you and your brother are getting, and then the other lot that will come along, whatever happens there. We don't know. You know, we don't know your
I know nothing of another lot.
Yeah.
All I'm focuses on is the 10-acre piece that.
Absolutely, you can only control what you
Yeah.
own or what you
Yes.
hope to own.
Yeah.
So you can, and we don't, because you don't know where the other owner is, we're not locking or linking that, but we're just saying that needs to be figured out and designed in somehow. It's the stormwater needs the capacity someplace it's gotta go. And it should not have additional impact other than what your lot's gonna be, okay? So in other words, it should be a net zero after, your lot. In other words, you'll design in, you'll meet the standards for lot 2, and then we'll call the other one lot 1. That should not max it out to the point where it puts pressure on the wetlands and also the Holder Brook. Does that make sense? Cumulatively, it could be a lot, that it could overwhelm the area.
So we're sort of limiting it on our vote tonight on this, but we're calling
Right.
out the fact that there'll be other considerations down the road when other lots or whatever gets developed.
This is the tricky thing, when you break these things up into small pieces and you do it like this. Yes, you're meeting the standards, but also they start to have a cumulative impact. So basically, you're additive is what's happening, okay? It's not you can't get it, it's just it's additive. So we had, in this case, we had the road extension, then we have the resource way, your lot, and then the other lot. That may send water also down into this direction because that drainage lot A is used pretty heavily and it gets a lot of water in there and it goes gushing down. But Terry's system that he designed with Rod is probably pretty robust and can handle it. We just don't know what the calculations are yet.
So I think that's something we can't answer tonight, and so we're dealing with what we have
This is
here.
messaging, it's not
And I
requirements
think
on
we should
you,
stick
yeah.
with that and move on. Is anyone from Zoom audience have any comments? Okay, hearing that, none, I'm going to move that we close the hearing and issue orders of conditions with the special conditions. If the other commissioners will agree, it's all been stated before, and it'll be in the recording, and we can come back and do it.
Okay.
Not
So
now.
I think 2 things. Let's see. One, we need the updated plans. I have the laundry list of stuff. I can either read it off or Terry and I can just.
No, you and Terry do it unless the other
Terry, you good with that?
commissioners agree.
All right. Terry's good with that.
Good.
And we have authority to work it out.
Great.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so that's that. So while we need set of plans, can you do something like this by 12 noon this coming Friday, or you need additional time, Terry?
No, unfortunately.
What's realistic?
Well, we're not on till planning till June 28th. Obviously you've got time to issue your orders. I would say by next Tuesday, because Thursday and Friday I'm doing test pits. I want to
Better break this down. Next Tuesday, 12 noon.
Assuming it's a fairly short list.
Well, it's not, but I think it's actually not a difficult list.
So we chat and relax.
Cherry McGovern, 12 noon Tuesday, and that will be 6 what? Today's the 22nd. Okay, that's good.
May I have a second?
Wait.
Second.
Joe, thank you.
Do you want me to
All
read
in
the-
favor?
No.
No, you're going to take it out of the minutes.
Aye.
Aye.
Hey,
Kurt, did you vote?
Yes, I did.
Okay, 5-0.
What do we have as a second on that one?
Joe. All right, and what they told us to do was to take it out of the minutes, what stays and
So
goes.
I've been recording.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So we have Joe second. All right, Mr. McDougal, Mr. Baraki, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being patient. It's a learning curve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, on to,
Thank you.
Thank you. Take it easy.
good night.
Good night, thank you.
Our second continued hearing, which is Lawson at 62 Marginal Street. I will be acting as the hearing officer as Commissioner Carberry is not in attendance tonight. We received today a request for a continuation on this. So I would, is there anyone here to represent the Lawsons? Okay. I would suggest that we have two choices. This is in front of us. We can take a vote, or we can accept their request for continuation, but that would be a denial without prejudice, which is the second on this project.
Right.
The deadline for the request would have been June 8th, I believe.
Right, but
So today is not acceptable.
so one correction. It's always 12 noon, the Tuesday before the hearing, and because they did not have the new schedule for July 1 through December 31, 2021, they asked for an extension after June 15th. So we've been moving it one by one, but it's also true that the commission went out, had another site visit in the rain. We requested certain documentation. The DMF has made comments which I think are taken to heart by the commission so far, reducing down the number of bents by increasing the size of them as per DMF. And the harbor master had made comments which seem to be incompatible with having the project developed, so you've got a navigational issue. So we've been put in limbo, and I think that the DWAP 2 will get the attention. And I think either we get the data or get a withdrawal, or let us have a chance to finalize this. It's probably a denial based upon, the harbor master's comments, which he was very logical in his process. And as per the revised regulations, the section performance standards on piers includes coordination with the harbor master. Therefore, that has to be taken as a significant comment and a significant adverse or cumulative adverse effect.
So I would propose that we continue this to a date certain, which would be
July 6th.
July 6th.
Yes.
And issue a denial without prejudice, count 2, due to lack of information regarding our requests for modifications of this project. So I make that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays?
And all opposed? No.
Okay, it's unanimous. Okay, we gotta tell Marjorie and Mr. Brodsky. Eric.
Okay. COCs and extensions. We have the Lynches at 25 Billings Road. I believe they are in the process of organizing a deed restriction on their porch.
Right.
And so we need to table this until July 6th. I propose we vote to table this. I move. May I have a second?
Second.
Word.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. And our second is 41 Prince Circle. The property owners have decided not to proceed with structural work, including an addition, walkway, and driveway. Septic work may proceed without a conservation permit, as it is exempted under 310 CMR 10 and the Chapter 505 regulations. The work that was completed included the relocation of the doghouse and the posting of conservation markers. Conservation Administrator and agent recommend the issuance of an invalid order of conditions closing out SE 422910. So I propose we vote to issue that invalid COC, as a portion of the work will be completed under the orders while the rest will not be performed. I move that we vote. May I have a second?
Second?
Sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Okay, that completes our business. I propose that we move to close the hearing of the Marshfield Conservation Commission for June 15th, 2021. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay.
8:30.
Wow.
Nice.
Nice.
That was swift.
I'm so happy.